Hello and welcome to MAC2233, Calculus for Management or Business Calculus. My name is Ethan Williams. I'll be your instructor for this course. And what I want to do in this video is I'm just going to go through the syllabus and pacing and other things that are vital on Canvas and really show you how the course is going to work. And hopefully after this video, you might have some questions about the course, but you'll understand how to approach this course and what to expect. All right, so when you open Canvas, this is the home page. If you go to the modules page, it's the same thing. So often when you email me about questions or finding something, I might refer to the modules page over the home page, but it's the same thing. And on the modules or homepage, pretty much everything for the course is here. What I'm going to start by going through the syllabus. So if you click, you can actually click on the syllabus here, but I'm going to go right through the syllabus and pacing link because I really want you to think about everything you need being on the modules page. Besides pretty much looking at your grades, you can get everything else on this page. And going to go ahead and open it up. If you click this button, it'll download it for you so you can look at it offline. But if you don't want to download it, understandable. You can just open it like this and I'll full screen and make it bigger. And I'm just going to go through the main things in here. All right. So this is a 3-semester course. You know, it's summer session and it's a 6-week course. Now I wanted to mention that may express 6 weeks that you really understand that this is the 6-week version. If you were hoping for the 10-week version, the full summer semester version, and you just kind of signed up without paying too much attention, just be aware of that. Because it is 6 weeks, it moves extremely fast. And in general, I would say if you can get the full 10-week class and you're not super confident in math, that might be a better route for you. But of course, I don't want to discourage anyone from staying in this course. It's so fast that after the first week, it's pretty much going to be like the first test material in a regular semester. That's how fast it works. Pretty much every week there is a test. All right, so I want to go ahead and talk about what's up here. My email, for anyone that's had me in the past, it looks different because TCC changed our email formats. So make sure if you do email me, which is the main way to contact me outside of Zoom or office hours, which are also on Zoom, it is just my name, ethan.williams@tcc.fl.edu. Now for the Zoom meetings, I call our Zoom meetings live Q&A hours. I will describe why as I go through the syllabus. And they are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9:50 to 11:25. So one thing I always like to point out with these 6-week classes is we're in class for 6 hours and 20 minutes per week. In a normal semester, it's 2.5 hours. So it's over 2.5 times as long, almost 3 times as long. It's a long time to be sitting in class. All right. And then the Zoom hours, I have them based around the classes I teach. I have a lot of classes in the morning. So I have office hours on Zoom, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 to 8, and Tuesday, Wednesday from 1:15 to 2:15. All right. This first thing here is just a course description. A lot of the ideas describing the course don't make sense if you've never taken it before, which is relevant, but ultimately the main thing is that your prerequisite, you should have at least a C in college algebra, MAC 1105. If you have taken an actual calculus course, calculus 1 or 2 or anything above that, or if you're planning to major in something like physics, engineering, chemistry, biology, it might depend on the school. For biology, this class might be fine, but you shouldn't be in this class because it's not going to help make you graduate with those degrees. So as far as a calculator goes, you should have at least a handheld calculator that's a scientific calculator. A graphing calculator is not necessary, and I'll show you why you don't need a graphing calculator is because there's an online one that's better than anything that you probably can find as a handheld graphing calculator, and you're allowed to use it on the test. But graphing calculators really aren't necessary for this course. A scientific calculator is definitely necessary. If you do want just a scientific calculator and you don't have one, TI-30, there's a lot of versions. All of them work fine. Some are a little more expensive, but they all range between like $10 to $20, and they're all good enough. If you already have a graphing calculator like a TI-83 or 84 that works, you can use those. All I'm saying is don't run out to buy one of these $100 calculators if you don't already have one, unless you really want one. Just spend $15-ish on a calculator and then use the online graphing calculator during the tests and your homework and everything else if you'd like. All right, so the grading scale is pretty normal. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89.9, is a B, and so on. The way your grade is made up, because this 6-week semester is so fast, I don't like to add in extra things beyond pretty much homework and tests. So there are 5 tests, and you can kind of think about them as long quizzes because there's pretty much going to be one every week. They're not really full-length tests like a normal semester would be, but they're also longer than a quiz would be in a normal semester. And you have 5. They make up 60% of your grade, so they're 12% each. And then there's homework through my math lab. All the material, I should say, is through my math lab, the test, the practice test, and the homework. That's 40% of your grade. And the practice tests, they're not counted for a grade, but you can get bonus points based from your test based on how you do on the practice test, and I'll talk about that below. All right, so the textbook here is the Calculus for Business, Economics, Life Sciences, and Social Sciences. It's already embedded in Canvas, so if you don't have a physical copy, and in general, I don't think it's necessary unless you want a physical copy after the semester, just buy the access code directly through Canvas. I'll show you how to do that up to a point. Because I don't have an actual student account, I can't go through the entire process, but I can just show you how to get started. Right? And like I said, everything in this course, the homework, the quizzes, there are no quizzes, the homework, the tests, and the practice tests are through this My Math Lab. So you'll need that access code to start. And to access homework, you will need that access code or access key. But the main thing is if you do want a physical copy, do not buy a used textbook. It might come with an access code, but it might already be used and you can't guarantee that it's going to work. And the main thing is you need that access code. So don't buy a used textbook. Right. Now the way it's going to work in this section and this class, and it will be outlined in the pacing schedule, which I'll show you next, is the way the homework is due. Because there's so much material in 1 week, I have found that in these 6-week classes, just making homework due once a week is not a good idea. For one, if you're the kind of student, which I very much was, that would do homework the day of it's due, you'll probably be doing homework for 8 hours that day because there's just so much material. It's basically 3 weeks in a normal semester in one. So that's due twice a week, which is Wednesday and Friday nights. And while you will be able to enter homework assignments late and work on them after the due dates are there to keep you on track. If you're falling behind, then that means you're going to be behind when the tests are due, and you don't want to try to catch up, especially in a calculus course. It's very different than a college algebra course. And if you fall behind, if you completely skip one section because you're just so behind and you don't want to fall behind any further, so you think I'll just skip a section, well, that section's probably going to be very important for the future sections and how to do things, and you don't want to skip sections. So falling behind by one section can be pretty rough. All right, the tests. So like I said, the tests are pretty much long quizzes. They're not full-length tests, but they're also not short quizzes. They're like long quizzes. Most tests are about on 5 sections. They are going to be timed 75 minutes through my math lab, and it must be completed through HonorLock. Now, most of you probably know what HonorLock is at this point. It's the proctoring service TCC uses pretty much campus-wide. And for the math department, it's pretty much the only proctoring service we can use. Now, one thing that I will say that's a little bit different about this class, at least the way I do it compared to other classes, is you have 2 attempts on the test. And in those 2 attempts, only your highest grade counts. So there's no harm in doing it a second time. If you get a 90, but maybe you really thought you could do better, a 90 is a very good grade, but you can do it a second time free of charge. If you get a lower score, it doesn't hurt you. If you get a higher score, it helps you. One thing I'll say for sure, though, is that there are practice tests, and the practice tests are just like the regular test anyway. So really, if you go through the practice test before the regular test, it's almost like getting 3 attempts. The first one, if it's the practice test, it doesn't really count for your grade, but it will definitely help prepare you for the test. And I would probably say the students that do the practice tests on average do about 10% higher on the actual test than the students that do not. It's very important. It's very straightforward for what's on the real test. The test will be due on Sundays. So ultimately, your homework's due on Wednesdays and Fridays. Your tests are due on Sundays. But you will be kicked out once the timer ends. So the tests are due, everything's due at midnight. You get 75 minutes for the test. So if you decide to procrastinate way too much and you start at 11:30, you will get only 30 minutes on the test. And then you'll be kicked out and you won't have your second attempt if that was your first attempt as well. So be careful with that. And, just kind of keep in mind that at the end of the day, you do have a second attempt. Maybe on a Sunday, you can do the test way before Sunday if you want. They're open up all week. You don't want to do them before you do all the homework and practice tests, of course. But one thing you could do is just Sunday morning, hopefully, since everything else is due, you're ready. If you wait until Sunday just to do your test, do one attempt maybe on a Sunday morning, kind of review how you did. And if you think you can do better, then do it again at Sunday night or something like that. Okay. Final exam. There is no final exam, especially for 6-week classes, but pretty much in my opinion for any summer class, if I don't have to give a final exam, I don't. And the main reason for that is there's not a final exam week. There's just a final exam day. I don't think it's realistic for you to be able to prepare for an entire final exam over an entire calculus course in one day. That'll probably do nothing but hurt everyone's grade. So I don't like to do them. Now for the practice test, for each practice test, they are relevant questions to the real test. They're very similar. And since it's so fast, and in general, I don't grade practice tests. However, one thing I'll show you is that if you do well enough on the practice test, it can not only help improve your test grade by actually working the practice test, but you'll get a bonus on your test grade. But I'll show you how that works when I show you Canvas. All right, the course content. Now, in general, there's a lot that would be here. The main thing is that in this semester, I don't have quizzes, so you can disregard that. But everything is in that modules page. There's lecture videos, there's the lecture notes, there's blank ones and filled out ones. There's the textbook, which is basically the link in my math lab anyway. There's the homework links, and then the test and practice test links. Once again, there's not actually quizzes. So that's pretty much the only thing that's not here compared to a normal semester. But the idea, what I'm telling you is that everything's on the module page. And I'm not going to read through this specifically because I'm going to go through and show you how it's on Canvas anyway. So just go ahead and just ignore that for now. But the ultimate point is everything's going to be on Canvas for you. Now for the test, not the practice test or homework, but the test, you will be required to submit your work. And your work does need to be in a PDF format. I do have a little video on how to do that, but you should do this pretty quickly after your test attempt. And if you do the test twice, that means you need to submit your work for each attempt. So you will submit it twice. And don't worry, it'll just submit the old one, the new one on top of the old one. So I'll be able to have both. But don't wait until you're after your second attempt to submit both. After each attempt, submit your work as quickly as possible. Now, I really want to make sure I focus on the next part because this is the course structure. So the course structure is that for the live times, the reason why I call them the live Q&A times and not class time or anything live Zoom time or something like that, is because I give you the lectures offline. the truth of the matter is I can lecture to you during these 6 hours a week, but one thing is it might be hard to focus for a 95-minute class, and especially because you're on the computer. In my opinion, it's better just to give you the lectures so you can watch them as you need to. What I'll be using as class time is really a time to ask questions. Now, that could be anything about the class. Specifically, homework questions is probably the main thing I would ask about if I was you. You can ask general questions about the class, but just if you have any questions at all and you don't feel like it needs to be one-on-one time. So don't be afraid to come and ask questions about the homework. Plenty of people have questions and never ask them because they don't want to be maybe judged or something. That's what I'm here for. I'd rather that 6 hours a week be reserved for a time that I can actually help you for 6 hours a week, instead of me just talk to you for 6 hours a week and tell you, oh, well, if you have questions, then you have to come to office hours. Now, I'd rather much rather be available for you to take questions during the time of your schedule that you have set aside for this class. I have gotten people that would come to class and ask me questions about grades because there's a private chat feature in Zoom, which is fine. In general, though, if you do have a question about your grade, you should come to office hours because that's a one-on-one private thing, and that's what office hours really are reserved for. You can ask questions in office hours related to homework and anything else. But if you have something that's private like that, make sure you're coming to office hours or emailing me about it. So one thing I guess I also like to mention is that when you come to class and ask questions, you do not have to type out the question. Just give me the section number of what you're working in and the homework number. That's the easiest way, and I could just look it up and do the similar problem that I see. All right, but once again, the point is you're not coming to class for a lecture. It's not a lecture. There are lecture videos, which I'll show you. And the main benefit of this is that you only have to compete against your classmates for questions. Your entire class is invited. Whoever signed up for this class at this time can come by. It could be up to 35 students, I believe, but that's a lot less than the 100 or so students I'm going to have overall. So when you come to office hours, you could be waiting in line for people in front of you, and you don't know how long that might take. All right, so office hours, pretty much kind of described above. It's basically one-on-one time for me and you. If you're not comfortable asking questions with other students around, of course, you can ask them during office hours, but I would recommend, in general, using office hours for things that you really can't ask around other students at all, like private things, grades, anything you can think of. Another thing I like to mention is, because I like to try to be fair to all my students, if there's a student waiting and you're in office hours, I will limit the one-on-one Zoom conferences or office hours meetings to 30 minutes. And if there are other students waiting, just kind of drawing a parallel here, in class time, you have 95 minutes, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, to ask me questions. And even if there are like 10 other students asking questions, they're probably going to be asking similar questions that you have, and you have a full 90 minutes and you don't have to leave. But you might have to leave and come back during office hours because I'm limiting them to 30 minutes per interaction, just to be fair to any students that are waiting. And just keep in mind that you are, for office hours, competing against all of my students, not just the students in your class. All right, so tips for success. Tips for success, pretty straightforward, but I wanted to really highlight it. Watching this video or coming to the first day of class, which is really going to be me going through the same stuff, but I wanted to have a video outlined just so anyone that can't come to the first day can watch this. I'm outlining what's in the syllabus, what's in Canvas, general tips how to succeed, and anything else in between. Probably the biggest thing are these next two, well, really all three of these, is adhering to the pacing schedule is very important. You know, kind of drawing parallels here. If we were in class and you were watching a lecture in class or coming to Zoom, we have 6 weeks of classes. We have roughly 6.5 hours of class per week. That's almost 40 hours of class, 40 hours of lecture. Well, there's about 20 I would say about 23, 24 hours of total lecture videos in this course. But that's almost half as much as you would if you came to class. So you have a lot of extra time built into this course. The biggest thing is when you look at the lecture videos, I recorded them all at once. Basically, whatever section, let's say, I'm going to throw out a number, but 3.3 is. Most lectures are around 45 minutes to an hour. And in class, that would probably take longer because questions and everything else, having to actually write down and go through everything. The biggest point of advice I can recommend, because I know I'd be looking at a video that long and not really wanting to watch it either, is watch it in 10 to 15 minute intervals. The lecture videos do problems that are very similar to the homework. That's really the point. If you learn how to do the homework problems, then you can do the test problems, and you should learn how to do the homework problems from the lecture videos. But don't watch the lecture videos all at once and then try to do the entire homework section. For one, I don't think it's as useful for learning. If you watch in short spurts, maybe even very literally just watch one question at a time, try to do the similar homework problem. But if you watch it all at once, it's going to be hard to remember more so what you did or what you wrote down for the first, second, third problem when you're at the end and you're writing down the 10th problem of the section. So it's more efficient, and that's what I would really recommend doing. And one other thing is that if you are able to pretty much work a problem pretty quickly after watching it once, you might be able to just go to the next problem and try to do that one without watching the next problem done in a video, because there are main ideas that if you really get the main idea, you can pretty much do the entire section. There might be some hiccups in there. Pretty much word problems are a big part of this course, and the word problems in every section could be a little more challenging than other sections. But ultimately, you just want to use the lecture videos exactly like that to really feel like you get it, and then try to do the homework problem. One of the biggest things I always say, and I feel like some students, maybe because you don't have to come to class in this sort of scenario, I don't force you to come to class. Maybe they feel like I don't want to help them. I absolutely want to help you. I set up the class so I can help you as much as possible. The lecture videos are intended to show you how to do any problem, but you are learning. I don't expect that everyone is going to be able to watch me do a particular problem and then be able to do a problem just like it on their own. There are pretty challenging problems, and in general, learning, whether it's math or science or English or anything, learning is not easy to do. So come to class time to ask questions. You can email me questions as well, but it's much better if you come to class time or office hours, because you can see it done live through a video and you don't have to try to read math. And I recommend avoiding emailing me unless if you absolutely cannot make it the next time, or that it's going to be a while. Maybe the next time we have class after Thursday is on Monday and the test is on Saturday. But as long as you're not procrastinating too badly and keeping up with the homework, you should really have most of it worked on by the time Thursday class comes for the entire week anyway. So any questions that you have, you can really ask by then. I do mention here that you can make an appointment for office hours by emailing me, and that would be fine as well. What I mean by that is really, I recommend just coming to office hours. If you want to arrange an appointment, then really all I do is I'll say during this time I'll be expecting someone. So if someone's already in office hours, I will tell them someone's supposed to be coming at this time, and I'll have to kick you out until they're done. So that's an option, but in general, just come by office hours. It's usually not too busy except right before a test. So if you are keeping up with it, days like Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, not many questions. It's really going to be Thursdays that I would expect a lot of people in office hours. All right, course withdrawal policy. If you decide to withdraw from this course, the deadline is June 4th. I do not withdraw students. That's what AW means, administrative withdrawal. You can definitely contact me on advice whether you should withdraw or not. But a couple things to keep in mind. There's no final exam, which means that there's not going to be any drop tests. You do have 2 attempts per test. So in a way, almost every test is dropped. The lowest one is dropped for your higher grade if you do 2 attempts. but you don't get a drop test. So don't ask me at the end of the semester, no, I didn't do great on test 1, but I did really well on test 5, the last test. Well, test 5 pretty much has nothing to do with test 1 material. And because of that, it doesn't make sense for me to drop one for the other. So just keep that in mind. No test will be dropped. If you have a very low test grade, after taking it twice, it's going to stick around the rest of the semester. Attendance, sort of how I described the class above. I don't take attendance because it's up to you whether you need to seek out help or not. I will always be available for class times. I will always be available in office hours. And that's pretty much 12 or so hours a week for your class to just come by and ask questions. But it's up to you. You know, you're the only one that knows if you have questions. But one thing I would highly recommend and say is that if you find yourself trying to Google or use some online calculator on how to do particular problems, but really just looking at their solution, yes, it can be helpful, but it might be better to go ahead and ask me questions on those types of problems. Because when you're looking at a solution, you can pretty much just copy it down with your numbers replaced. And that's not really learning. It can be a method of learning, but you'd probably have to do it about 10 to 15 times just to get the pattern down. It's more important that you can do the problem without looking at the solutions on your own. All right, so the help outside of class is pretty standard. I pretty much, because of the way I do the course, describe first that you should come to class if you have questions. You can email me or come to office hours like I mentioned. I'll have a tiny discussion board on campus, so you can just ask questions and maybe your classmates will answer, or also you could arrange on that discussion board to make study groups, either virtually or, if you're in Tallahassee and you guys are comfortable meeting up, you can do that as well. You can use the Virtual Learning Commons or Smart Thinking, which I'll show you how to get to in Canvas. You can use lecture notes and the videos, which is the main thing I would do in Canvas. That should be really what supplements watching the lectures and doing the homework, is taking the notes from the lecture video. And I put this one last because it's very hard to usually read a math book, but when you buy the access code, you do get an online e-text, which you can access anytime during the semester as well. All right, communication. The main way of communication is email. You need to either make sure you're checking Canvas every day, especially in a semester like this, for announcements that I send out. But they also are supposed to get sent directly to your email. So anytime I send an announcement to the entire class, you should see it in your email. And as a result, when you contact me, just like when I'm contacting you, it should be through your TCC email account or Canvas messaging, which goes straight to my email. So when I do everything from my email, but make sure when you're contacting me, it's through your TCC account, whether it's the TCC email account or Canvas messaging. On Monday through Friday, so during the days of the week, if you email me, I'll respond within 24 hours. Usually I try to do it within a couple hours, but sometimes I can't do it very quickly. And if you email me after 5 on Friday, I know the tests are due on the weekends and there might be questions about that. I'll try to check every now and then on the weekends, but if you don't hear a response from me by Monday, just keep in mind I'm not ignoring you. I know you might be having some technical difficulties with the test or something like that, and that's why you're emailing me. But just keep in mind that I will respond by Monday, and if you do have technical difficulties getting onto the test and you're just not able to take it at least on time, that's something we can work around. That's very much a valid reason for being late on a test. The one thing I always like to mention, though, especially in a class like this, it's so fast that even taking a test on a Monday is not the best idea because you're already one day behind. If you take that test on Monday, then you have to work on Monday's material and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in a more compressed session. All right. Computer usage, just you're going to have to use a computer. Clearly, this is pretty much an online class anyway. Make sure your internet connection is reliable, especially when you take tests. Students with disabilities, pretty much what this says is that if you are the a student that gets accommodations as far as extra time on tests or just timed assignments, you should tell me immediately so I can make sure you actually get that. All right, so if you don't contact me, I understand that there's basically a test the first week. There really is. That's on the Sunday after the first week. But you'll need to contact me right away and let me know so I can arrange that. Because if you don't tell me until the day before or very close to it and you don't send me the letter correctly, then I can't give you that accommodation until everything's done correctly. But there's some contact information if you do need to contact them. This is a phone number. I would say at this point they're probably open. So you can come by if you want, if you're in Tallahassee, but it's probably easier just to email them. Call them and make an appointment with a counselor, or just, if you already have that letter, you don't need to. You can just send me that letter. All right, so using Honor Lock for tests, I know this is not everyone's favorite. I really wish there was a better solution, but at this point, being online, we really need a proctor service, and I think Honor Lock, while not ideal, is pretty much the only one that's free for students. And I don't personally like to make anything cost more for students that's not going to ultimately benefit them. I know Honor Lock's not perfect, but a couple of things is that for Honor Lock, you need a webcam. It must be enabled. You need Google Chrome because it's the only browser with an Honor Lock extension. And then also you'll have to have Honor Lock downloaded, the Honor Lock downloaded to go ahead and start. Now in a normal semester, we have time before the first test where I give you an Honor Lock practice test, but that will not be done. So actually I will probably scratch this out and re-upload it just to clarify. You do not have an Honor Lock practice test. The first time you're going to get onto Honor Lock is test 1. And there's pretty much some standard steps. If you've never gotten onto Honor Lock, you can watch this video here. Click on this link for doing what's called a room scan. I also have a video of myself just going through the steps of getting on Honor Lock, with the exception of the photo ID, because my student account's name is test student and that does not match my actual name on my ID. Okay. Now the main thing I know is, especially for math class, and why people tend to not like Honor Lock in general, is that they get flagged when they're not cheating. And I think the big thing is because when you're doing math, you're doing your work, which means you're looking down. And if you're looking down, of course, you could theory be looking down at everything. But as long as you do that room scan, then we know that your testing area is blank except for paper and a calculator and something to write with. And that's really good enough to know that as long as you're only looking down to do your work, and there's no reason why being flagged for something like that will penalize your grade. So just because you might get potentially flagged, don't worry about getting points taken off your grade or having your test grade be a 0. Now, if you are seen with someone else in the room helping you take the test, or on your phone or something like that, that's definitely a violation of the honor code, which you will agree to every time you take a test. But that's the main thing that I wanted to mention. All right, so just some important days about this course. Classes begin May 6th. The last day of class is June 15th. Now the actual class semester ends for us June 17th. So it's June 16th and 17th are the quote unquote final exam days. The last day to drop with a refund is May 13th. So the reason I always like to remind students of that is, if you maybe think this class is going to go way too fast, you want to try to do the full length summer semester, which is still compressed, but a much more realistic 10 weeks, then you can definitely try to look into getting into one of those classes. Or if you think you're just not going to like the structure, you think I need to be in a class where I have to come to Zoom and watch the lectures. I can't watch them on my own. Maybe I just won't be motivated enough or something. I totally understand that this style is not going to reach 100% of students. I've had a lot of success with it from the student perspective, but I understand that any method I teach is not going to be ideal for 100% of students. So do consider that. And then the last day to withdraw I've described above is June 4th. We have one holiday in the session, which is Memorial Day, which is May 31st. And then grades are available. Well, they'll be available on workday at the latest June 21st, but they'll officially be available whenever I put them in. And I try to do that as quickly as possible so that you know your grade and you don't have to email me questioning, did my grade get rounded or not? I don't know. Well, we'll worry about rounding way later. But for now, just know that this is as late as June 21st. All right, so that's the syllabus. That's the main thing in this video. I know this video is already pretty long, but now I'll go ahead and just quickly talk about everything else. So this pacing schedule, what I have outlined here is just a little Excel spreadsheet of everything you're doing. Now for week 0, which is what I call this week, I'm recording this on Tuesday, which is May 4th, but class starts May 6th. Pretty much I'm just going to go through this introduction again. But by the end of Sunday of this week, May 9th, you really want to make sure you have that introduction or syllabus quiz done, and also make a Pearson account. Get access, whether you buy an access code right away or you just get the 2-week free trial and then eventually extend it. You need to make sure you're doing that because, like I mentioned, everything moves so fast that it's going to be really hard to keep up with if you fall behind. Even if you don't get access till next Wednesday, which is the first day homework is due, well, you look at that, we already have 3 homework assignments due just next Wednesday, and then 2 more due on Friday, and then test 1 on those 5 sections due on the Sunday. So you really can't afford to miss any time. Now, one thing I'll say, especially after the first test, I really didn't want to put a test 1 on the first week, but if I waited till the end of the second week, then it would have just been extremely long. I think this is 11 sections. That would have been a very, very, very long test. And I wanted everyone to have a little bit of confidence because when you start calculus, it can be pretty hard. But chapter 1 is a college algebra review. So these first 3 sections, you should see a lot of review. And when you start in chapter 2, that's when the new stuff comes. So at least on the first test, out of the 5 sections you have, 3 out of the 5 should be a lot of review, and you should be really prepared for it. All right, so one thing I wanted to mention here is that, I threw in the holiday May 31st. This is kind of roughly a daily schedule, meaning on Monday and Tuesday of a week, you should be working on these homework assignments and the lectures, and then on Wednesday is when those corresponding ones are due. Wednesday and Thursday you should be working on these lectures, and then on Friday the corresponding lectures are due. Okay. Now this week you can see May 31st here falls on at the beginning on week 4. Well, you still have 2 sections to do. It's pretty much, if you don't want to do anything Monday, you're not required to. You're really not required to do anything until the due dates, but I really have this split up so that it helps keep you on track and you don't think at the end of the week you have to do 5, 6 homework sessions. Okay. All right, so just keep that in mind. The last thing I like to mention is that test 5, which is the last test, is not in finals week. It's just at the end of week 5. And you'll notice that in week 6, you do have more. Past the second test, it's just 1 section. So you have 1 section of homework to do for week 6. It's 6.2, but that's all you have to do. So after test 5, you'll pretty much have your grade for this class done. And then you'll only have 1 section of homework left to do. And at that point, 1 section of homework won't change your grade much. It can definitely boost your grade a little bit, but it won't drastically change your grade. So pretty much after test 5, you will know your grade for the test. But especially if you are in a business type major like finance, section 6.2 is one of the more interesting ones, and I highly recommend not skipping it. All right, but I have a couple other things highlighted here. You get 2 attempts at each test. There's an optional practice test, which is due before the day before each test. Since all the tests are due on Sundays, and they're always due on the Saturdays, which you'll see that in Canvas. All right, but I'm going to go back to the home page here. Now we went through the syllabus and pacing. When you want to come to class, you go to the live Zoom hours, and there will be the meeting lined up, the times they start, and then the links down here. These are also the same if you click on the Zoom tab. If you come to the Zoom tab, I guess for some reason it's not updated right now or went away, but they'll all be right here. And then for Zoom office hours, student office hours, which are Zoom office hours, there is a different Zoom ID meeting. And you will not find this link in Zoom. So for coming to office hours, you do have to come through this link. Let's see here, student resources. If you click on student resources, there's just a couple things, how to get access onto Pearson, but pretty much I'll show you that very quickly, up to how much I can. The virtual learning commons and smart thinking, their link is right here. You can click on this and it should take you through the process of how to get on it. Virtual TCC is just a website where they have a whole bunch of resources for sort of outside of class stuff. And then this student resource thing I'll probably get rid of. I don't even know if this link works, but it was about the beginning of the pandemic. All right, now the only other thing in here is the introduction quiz. After you watch this video, after the first day, you should do this. They're pretty much all true, false questions. And you get 3 attempts at the test. So even if there's something that maybe I didn't speak on super specifically in this video and you're not sure and you get it wrong, you can just go through again and get it right. Because you have 3 attempts and they're pretty much all true and false, you can just answer each one. And then the point here is that if you get it right or wrong, you should read the comments about why it's right or wrong, just so you know what to expect about things. Okay, and then the last thing I have before we look at the Pearson stuff is calculator FAQ. So if you open this up, it just tells you pretty much what you can use. This isn't an exhaustive list, but for handheld, you can use a TI-83, 84, which are graphing calculators, a TI-30 for scientific, or other types of handhelds. There's a ton of calculators. The one thing I wanted to mention is that Desmos, you can use one online graphing calculator, which is called Desmos. There's no other online calculators you will be permitted to use. And what I want to do real quickly in this video is just show you very quickly what it's about. So if you go to desmos.com, it'll bring this up. If you click on graphing calculator, it'll bring this up. And if you want to graph something, you just type in your equation, like y equals x. Y equals x will be that line. And it can do a whole bunch of things. It's x squared, there's your parabola, and so on. But this can be useful for some problems. It's not required to use a graphing calculator at all, but this one's better than any other calculator for graphing that you're gonna find, in my opinion. Okay. But the main thing I also wanted to add is that you can't use any other online graphing calculator or any online calculator at all. This is the only website during the test that you'll be permitted to go to besides the actual testing website. There are really fancy calculators like TI-89s and 92s that you cannot use, and you definitely cannot use your phone because your phone could have anything on it. You could download the notes or anything on that. And I know some people like to use their phone as a calculator, but please do not use your phone. If you are seen using your phone during a test, that is considered cheating. All right. So the main thing I want to do here is just show you everything's outlined for you as far as the material for the course. The practice tests, I have the practice test bonus described in here. Basically it says if you get an A, at least a 90% on the practice test, then you will get a 3% boost on the test grade. Now, practice tests are pretty much homework assignments that are made to get you ready for the tests, which means you can do problems over and over again until you get them right. And if you try hard enough, if you do enough effort, you can get that 90. It's not like you get a problem wrong once, like on a real test, and you don't get another attempt at it. You just do it until you're done and until you can get it right. But it is strict. So if you get an 89.9% on the practice test, you will not get your bonus. It is a 90% because you can always go back and add to your grade. And then all the practice tests, which are already set up for you, are right here. Now, one thing I can just go ahead and show you is with this first practice test is when you try to open it, if you don't have an access code, which this isn't going to work for me anyway, because I'm logged in as a test student, which is not my real name. If you've had a Pearson account, you might be able to skip this part, but you just scroll down, say, okay, whatever, I accept it. And then at this point, it'll ask you to sign in or create an account. Now, since you're logging in through Canvas, this might be done automatically. I've never been from the student perspective doing this, but once you're logged in, make sure you're logged in only through Canvas. And once you do that, it should ask you, do you have an access code? Do you want to buy an access code? And there's an option for getting a free 2-week thing. So what I would recommend is if you go back here to where I had student resources, is if you have any questions about getting that, click on here. This will tell you exactly how to do it and you'll be good to go. Now there is this link for MyLab and Mastering, which will bring up everything about the MyLab and Mastering as well. And you'll see student links here. You should see exactly what I see here. You would click on all assignments. And once you already have that, you can enter the assignments this way as well. But like I said, you can enter everything through the home page besides looking at your grades. So I would just stick to this home page or the modules page. For the test, there are 2 links here. And as the tests become available, they'll pop up as well. It will show you how to enter on HonorLock and then also how to submit your work. So they're both short videos. This one's like 8 minutes. This one's like 2 minutes. They're both short videos. Just click on them. The last thing I want to show you is in each section for the course, you have the following. You have the lecture video, you have blank notes, you have filled out notes, and you have the the homework assignment itself. Pearson automatically calls them enhanced assignments, but these are your homework assignments. If you click on the lecture video, it'll just take you to a page with an embedded YouTube video of me going through the lecture notes. And you can open it up and watch them. And then the blank notes here, click on that and it'll automatically open up the blank notes. What I mean by blank notes is that it's not filled out at all. So if you want to follow along and not really start completely by yourself and use the template for the blank notes, you can use these. Sometimes it loads slowly and it's easier to download, but it would be here. And then you can also do the filled out notes. And I would say in general, don't use the blank notes, don't use the filled out notes unless you're already watched the video. So the blank notes look like this. There are definitely some things. The main idea is that through the blank notes, I'll talk about any background stuff like this, and then I'll go through all the problems. And the filled out notes will have all the problems filled out. So I'll let that load for a second. But that's pretty much everything. So unit 1 is the material on test 1. And then unit 2 is the material on test 2, unit 3, and so on. Every section's already done for you as far as all the videos and everything. Looks like I've forgotten to write in unit 5 here. So I'll have to go ahead and add that in. I don't know how I forgot that, but I'll go ahead and make sure I add that in. And everything on Canvas is there for you already. All right. So let's see it. Yeah, this is loading so slowly because it's an edited page, but if you open one up or download it, it's going to be filled out. The main thing I'd say is that it can be overwhelming, so don't look at it too much, unless if you've already gone through the notes in the video yourself. So Zoom tab just will have the Zoom links for the live classes. Syllabus has the same syllabus and pacing schedule right here. And then something a lot of students like about the syllabus tab is that it has your due dates directly in them. So you can see what's due on Wednesday, May 12th, and you can click on the assignment there. It's up to you how you enter the assignments. I just leave this up here because I like that, at least in the syllabus tab, you can see how your grade is made up. You don't have to open up the syllabus and see every time. You can see, oh, homework's worth 40%, all the tests are worth 12%, practice tests are worth 0%, but you can get a bonus. The only other one you'll probably use here, unless if you want to use Smart Thinking online tutoring, which I would generally recommend that you just use the virtual learning commons or learning commons, is the grades. And the grades tab, I'm sure if you use Canvas, you're familiar with it. The one nice thing is that if it comes to the end of the semester, so let's say the end of the semester comes, you want to know, what do I need to get on test 5 to make sure I keep a certain grade? Maybe you have an 81 and you want to make sure, I want to make sure I still get a B. What do I need on test 5? Well, you can type in what if grades. The only thing that's kind of annoying about the way Pearson works is your grades aren't out of 100 for the test. And if I make them out of 100, then what happens is when you get the test grades back, if you get 18 out of 20, which is 90%, you'd actually see an 18%, and that would probably not be a good thing. So I leave it like this, but let's say a 15 out of 20 is a 75%. And you can see that it fills it in there, but if you highlight over it, it says this is a what if score. If you want to take out your what if score, you just hit that and it will revert back. But it'll compute a total grade for you, and then you can really know without asking me what you actually need to get to maintain a certain grade. All right, but that's pretty much everything that's in Canvas. And once again, the main summary here is that when you come to the live lecture time, or sorry, live Zoom hours, do not expect a lecture because they're all there for you already. And I don't want people coming in ready, even if it's for the first real class day, which is next Monday. You really need to know what to expect for the course already. So just keep that in mind. And I know this video is a little long, but I really wanted to try to touch on everything. And I hope you found it helpful. And I'll see you, I don't know when you'll watch this, but I'll see you at some point.